Hey guys, today I'm going to make a video on probably one of the best budget decks right now in Union Arena, and that is going to be Blue ALO from Sword Art Online, SAO. So we're going to go through the deck profile for this, along with some potential combos you can use within the deck, and why I think that this is the best budget deck for locals. So let's get into it. Alright, so the first card for this deck is going to be 4 of the 0-drop Kiritos. He is not ALO, he is for Aincrad, but there is a reason for this. So I run 4 of the Kirito 0-drops, and we'll get into that reason later on. Next is the 0-drop Leafas. These are ALO. I run 4 of these. She is to raid on the Leafa SR. So I have 4 of those. And then next, I am running 3 of the Yui 0-drops. This is also ALO. Her when played is to draw a card, then place one from your hand into your sideline. I was running 4 of these, but I don't like to draw and then place a card into my sideline often, especially not with this deck, because you do have to keep this deck with a hand size above 5 in order for some of the triggers to work. Just like this 1-drop Kirito. So during your turn, if you have 5 or more cards in your hand, this character gains 1000 BP. It also has Nullify, and it is ALO searchable. So I am running 3 of these. The only reason why I'm running 3 is because it doesn't have a trigger. And then next is the 2-drop Lisbeth. This, when played, is to draw a card, which is really great for this deck because you do want to be drawing a lot. You want to be searching, drawing, and having a good hand size. But this also is really good. A 2-drop is really great to have a curve between a 1 and 3. So I always try to keep at least a 2-drop in my decks. This one is useful, so that's why I am running 3. And then next we have this, which is Land of Fairies. I just recently added this into the deck. I do think it does need it, so it looks at the top 4 cards of your deck and reveals up to 2 ALO affinity cards, and you add them to your hand, then you place the remaining on the bottom of your deck in any order. This card's really great because it has a trigger. It allows you to look at top 4 and take 2 of the cards to your hand, and then you don't have to sideline anything. So this is really great if you're looking for certain raids like Leafa or certain cards that you need to just hopefully end the game. Next is the color trigger. I'm running 4 of these Leafas. The blue color trigger is to choose one character with 35 or less BP on your opponent's front line and return it to their hand. And then this Leafa card is great because you can choose up to 1 character on your field. It gains, this character cannot be blocked by a character with 3k or less until end of turn. This does stop a lot of your opponent's low bodies from blocking your big attackers, so this card is great. There's also a lot of combos you can do with this card, which I will get into later. Next is World Tree. You play this is a site, you play it set to active. You can activate your main to switch it to resting and return 1 character on your field with ALO affinity to your hand. If you do choose up to 1 character on your field or your opponent's field, and it gains 1000 BP. I've only used it on my field, never on my opponent's field. But the only reason why you can also give 1000 to someone on your opponent's field is because of this card. So if your opponent has 25 or 1,000 or 1,500 BP character, you can give it 1,000 and then it can't be blocked. Or with the Leafa raid, which I will get into, the Leafa raid can't be blocked by a 4K or higher. So if it's like a 3K or a 35, then if you give it 1,000, it can't block, which can sometimes allow you to punch through and take a life from your opponent. So this card is really great because it also keeps your hand size high. So if you have 4 cards in your hand, before you go into your attack phase, you just switch this to resting, put a card that you want back into your hand, and then you are at 5 for all your abilities to kick off. But also, if you want to use the card again to do something else next turn, this is great to have, so that way you're not digging for it in your deck to find another one. You could just pull it back from the field. And it also is a double energy generator, so if you have 2 of these on your back line, you can basically play whatever you want in this deck because it is super low cost. Alright, so up next we have some of the common cards that you would keep in every deck, which is the AP Razor and your Final. So we're running 4 of those. And then we have 4 of the specials. What I do like about this special is you choose one character with 1,000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it, and then you add 500 BP for each card on the field with ALO affinity and each card in your hand. So at certain points, you do, since this deck mostly runs ALO, you are able to always sideline a 5K or higher. And then next we have 3 of the UEs. This is the SR, and it allows you to do 2 things. You can choose one of the following. You can either look at the top 2 cards of your deck, reveal 1 character or sight card among them and add it to your hand, then place the remaining on the bottom, so you don't have to sideline anything with this either. Or you can play up to 1 blue character card with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP cost from your hand set to resting on your field. That is not ALO specific, so you can use this in the Aincrad deck, which is the switch, the Asuna and Kirito switch, but that also helps since I am running one of the Aincrad Kiritos. And then next, I am running the 3 energy 2 action Asuna. This card is like a sight, so you cannot move it or play it on your front line. But when you play it, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and then play 1 character card with the fulfilled required energy, 1 AP cost with ALO affinity, and set it to active on your front line. Then place the remaining on the bottom of your deck in any order. This card is great. It is very similar to Neon in Green Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter. This is one of the cards that is great to use and bounce back with the World Tree when you set up your field and you just need to keep playing cards and kind of rush forward. You can just bounce this back with World Tree, play it again next turn, and always have a card active on your field. Especially when you have the AP Razor in your hand and you are able to use this and also just fill up your front line with other stuff. And then we have the SR that basically makes this deck. This is the 3 energy Leafa from ALO. So if you have 5 or more cards in your hand, this character cannot be blocked by a character with 4,000 or more BP. And then you can use the activate main if on the front line. Once per turn, you may return 1 other character on your field to your hand. If you do, choose up to 1 character on your field with ALO affinity and switch it to active. It gains 1,000 BP till end of turn. So this card is really great. Low energy, can be rated on a bunch of different Leafa cards that are in this deck. And then you can play other stuff resting on your front line and activate the main on this in order to set it active to have sort of like a rush. What makes this card really great though is the fact that this character cannot be blocked by a character with 4,000 or more BP. This causes a lot of heavy decks like One Punch Man and even Blue Sukuna that runs a lot of high BP costing bodies to struggle with this deck because it is fast, and once you get these Leafas up, they are forced to take a life because they cannot block this Leafa. There is also a combo that I'll show you guys that works really well with this Leafa card. Next, we have 3 of these Kirito cards. When played, play up to 1 blue character with 1 or less required energy, 1 AP cost, and ALO affinity from your hand set to resting on your front line. If you have 5 or more cards in your hand, 3 or less instead. This is 4,000 BP Kirito that allows you to play another character. So this is great to do a lot of actions without spending AP cost, play a lot of free cards. You can also raid on it. And this is a card that I use a lot to combo with the Leafa to restand after. This is a card that I use a lot to combo with the Leafa. You can activate her main and put a card back into your hand, so that way you can play this set to active on the same turn that you play it, which is really great. So it's like almost having a raid, vanilla raid, 4,000 BP card on your front line on the same turn, while also playing another card, most likely 3 or less required energy, because it really is easy to keep always 5 cards in your hand with this deck because there's just so much draw power. And last, we are running 2 of the Aincrad Kirito. This is from the starter deck for Sword Art Online. So when played, you may choose 1 other character on your front line and energy line and swap them. If Asuna is on your field, this character gains double attack. So what makes this card really good in the deck, you don't necessarily have to swap anything because that's not really the point, but with that 3 energy 2 action Asuna, that allows you to play something set to active on your front line. As long as that's on your field, this character will gain double attack. This also just makes the deck really strong because there is no impact. So what primarily is running this deck is that Leafa that forces them to take life because they can't block, and then also having extra attacks and just really rushing your opponent makes this deck really hard to stop, but also a great budget deck because it is really cheap. I will put a picture somewhere on the screen of the X-Burst profile. X-Burst now shows you how much each card costs with the TCG player market price. So I believe this is around $18 to build, which is really great for a budget deck if you don't want to spend a lot on expensive SRs like some of the decks that are really strong in Union. This will keep up with them, but it is cheap and a great way to get into the game without spending a lot of money. So now we will get into some of the combos that I like to use with this deck, primarily around the Leafa and playing stuff for free. So these are the cards that really centerpiece in this deck and run around this Leafa, and just also really helps make this deck go really fast, which I feel like is really strong in this game. Some decks take a lot to set up, but with this you're really just board rushing and forcing them not to be able to block and just, punching through. So some of the combos that I like to do with this, I mentioned some while I was explaining the deck profile, is using this Leafa to choose up to 1 character on your field. This character cannot be blocked by a character with 3,000 or less BP till the end of turn. This World Tree, which puts an ALO back into your hand, and then you choose a character to gain 1,000. And then this Leafa. So what you would do is have a rated Leafa on your front line and play this card down, and ultimately use the ability on the rated Leafa. So if you have 5 cards in your hand, she can't be blocked by a 4K or higher, or now with this when played ability, a 3000 or less. So it forces them to only be able to block a 35, which chances are they might not have even a 35 in the deck. So then you would use the World Tree to put this back in your hand, and then you just keep playing this Leafa down and keep adding it onto this Leafa. So that's one of the combos that I like. Another combo is just to use the World Tree with this Lisbeth. So every turn to just keep having that draw power, or just keep a minimum of 5 cards in your hand, is to just play this, draw a card, then put it back in your hand with the World Tree. It allows you to search a lot and to draw a lot. So you always are going to be wanting to search for this Leafa. This is the strongest thing in the deck. So the faster you get to these, the faster it makes it really hard for your opponent. Using a lot of the searchers like this Asuna, this Yui, and this Lisbeth are going to be what gets to this Leafa the fastest. So with the Asuna, since you cannot set the card and rate it when you get it, you have to set it active on your front line. You can play this if you do find the Leafa and you have a World Tree on your back line. You can set it to resting and put it back into your hand, so then you can play it rated. So that's really good too. And then this Yui, I almost never use it to play a blue character unless I really need to fill up my front line. If the game is really close and I need something to block, I always look at the top 2 and add something to my hand, which will ultimately get me to this Leafa faster. And then I mentioned using this Kirito to play it on my field and then play another card. So if you play this Kirito and have 5 cards in your hand, you can play a 3 or less, which is this Yui. So you would play the Kirito on your front line, rested, and then you would play this Yui, and that is for free, and then you can search top 2 for a card. If you really wanted to play something else for free, you can. So you essentially use one action to play this for free, and then with her, you can choose to play another blue character. So you can essentially play 2 cards for free just by using this combo if you really need to fill up your front line if it's close to the end of the game and you need blockers. So that's a really great combo also, especially too if you have the Leafa rated on your front line. You can activate the main on the Leafa and pull a card back to your hand to get this Kirito active, so you have 2 attacks that turn if you played the Kirito. And you don't have to just do it with the Kirito. I just say the Kirito because it is a high BP, but you can do it with any card. So those are some really good combos. And then of course this Kirito is going to do a lot of damage too with that double attack. Having extra attacks is really rough, especially when you're flooding the board with a lot of cards, even though they are low bodies. If you use some nice combos and use stuff like not being able to block by 3000 or less, it forces a lot of life out of your opponent. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you like this deck or if you try it out. This is one of my favorites right now. It's just really fun to play. There's a lot of combos you can get off, and it really took me by surprise on how actually good it is in the meta, because it's not talked about a lot. But at least at my local, it does put up a standing fight against a lot of bigger decks like Blue Sukuna. So thanks for watching.